Hey gang, Scott Davenport here. Welcome to In Post. Thanks for joining me today. Today's photo is, as usual, one of the photos I shared on In the Field earlier this week. And it's of this Torrey pine looking over the Pacific Ocean. You can see the photo here, and this is in its unfinished state. And I chose this photo because it really became about bringing a little bit of life, a little bit of color back into the photo. And 3 adjustments helped me get there. And so here, that before image, and I have this little snapshot after. And it's just a much more inviting photo, a little more of a twilight, day is just starting to break kind of feel. And I want to walk through the adjustments I did to make this happen. So let me switch back over to the before view, and I'll bring up the graduated tool. And I have a few on the scene already, but these are really about kind of dealing with exposure. You know, I did this one to darken the branches of the tree, and then example here, this one down here just darkens the foreground. But in the after snapshot, we're going to see more color. And those are the ones I want to talk about here. There's 3 more pins now. Let's talk about this first one right here. If I hover over that, there's this large covering over most of the sky. Let me press the O key so that stays on there. So almost the entire sky here, but not the major parts of the pine needles on this Torrey pine. How are we doing that? Well, that is with a luminance mask. If I show that luminance mask, you can see that by tugging away from the shadows, adjusting the smoothness a little bit, that let me rein in things to the sky, and then boosting saturation. And the trick for that twilight feel, I turn off the luminance, is the tint, raising that tint up for that purple type of feel. So to go back to before and then after, seeing that sky, that shift where we see more of those bluish purple tones coming in, that hallmark of right at the beginning or the end, the bookmarks of the day. The second pin, this one right here, hover on that one for a moment, and it's just the brighter parts of the sky. And let's move off of that for a second. This is like what the orangey area of sunrise. The sun was rising, well off to camera left. And there was a hint of that band in there of bright color by adding in, again, another range mask, this time a color range mask, because predominantly this is all an orange tone thing, and that was the simplest, easiest way for me to get a mask that would address just that segment of the photo, and also nicely pick up the subtle reflections in the water. Notice that range mask is picking those pieces up as well. As far as the adjustments, it's really just adding a little bit of warmth. And that added this nice inviting feel here. As I'm looking at it, maybe this section might be a little bit too cooked. Maybe I'll back off that warmth a tiny bit. And that happens sometimes. We look at a photo after we've processed it, a couple of days has gone by, you catch a few more things. The last pin I want to talk about is this one up here. And this is addressing the needles in the pine tree itself. And you can see over on the right-hand side, what are we doing? We're warming it up, we're increasing exposure. And adding warmth, that's kind of an interesting thing. The greens really responded well to that. So let me get off of that pin. We can see the greens there. If I were to take that warmth back down and then undo that to add it back in, you can see that that just brightens up quite a bit. Now, in the HSL panel, it's worth pointing out that in general, I did do a yellow to green shift in hue, because there's a lot of yellows and greens, and so nudging that yellow hue toward green really brings out more in any greens in your photo. But that's global. That's for the entire photo. So even the greens here, the stuff down in the foreground, that's all getting that benefit of that hue shift. But up in this pin here, it's really that warmth that's adding things in. Touch of exposure just to brighten it up a little bit, give a little more offset from the background. But summing all that up again, before those 3 adjustments, and then after, and for me that really made the photo worthwhile, made it pleasing. Otherwise, it was just kind of flat. The colors were just not coming through. I hope you found the video useful. You got questions? Go ahead and drop them below. And until next time, my name's Scott Davenport. Have fun.